Jon Jones versus Cyril Gane. Who wins? Well, the UFC Heavyweight Championship fight between Jon Jones and Cyril Gane is taking place in March, and I'm going to be betting a lot of money on it. So in this video, I'll break down for you who I think is going to win this fight by scoring this matchup as if it was a UFC Championship 5-round fight with the exact same 10-point scoring system, except each round will be based on different fighting metrics. So round 1 will be physicality, round 2 will be durability, round 3 will be striking, round 4 will be wrestling, and round 5 will be Jiu Jitsu. And after I score each round based on the individual skills and history of each fighter, at the end of the video I'll combine the scores to see which fighter is likely to win this fight and who I'll be betting on. But before we start, of course, let's quickly take a look at their stats. Cyril Gane is 11-1 as an MMA fighter with 5 KOs/TKOs and 3 submissions, and he stands at 6'4". On the other hand, we have Jon Jones, the former light heavyweight champion, who is 26-1 with 10 KOs and TKOs and 7 submissions, and he also stands at 6'4" as well. Anyway, now let's start the fight. Off the bat, the first thing you'll notice is that both Jones and Gane are the same height at 6'4". But of course, Gane has been fighting at heavyweight his entire career in the UFC, usually at 245 pounds, while Jones has been fighting at light heavyweight his entire MMA career at around 205 pounds. It's no secret that Gane has an exceptional frame and physique as an MMA fighter, and despite not fighting all the way at the upper limit of the division 265, he's still rather massive and often has significant reach advantage over his opponents. But on the other hand, although Jones has fought at 205 his entire career, he's been bulking up over the last couple years in anticipation for his move to heavyweight, and is far larger than he's ever been. And although there's no question that Jones is bigger than he was at heavyweight, there is a question of how much the added mass is actual functional muscle mass versus just fat, and there are questions of how his strength will translate in the heavyweight division, especially in clinch situations on the fence where Jones has historically excelled. And generally, since Gane has spent his entire career at heavyweight with plenty of successful experience and will probably be the heavier fighter, this round of physicality goes to Gane, but by a slight margin. To be honest, both of these fighters have exceptional cardio. Throughout his career, Jones had 13 title defenses against the best of the best as a light heavyweight champ, many of which had went all 5 rounds. In all of these fights, Jones has never really shown any signs of slowing down, and honestly he tends to excel in the championship rounds. As for Gane, he has fought 5 5-round fights in the UFC, however only 3 of them actually went all 3 rounds, and to be honest, although Gane stayed fresh on the feet for most of the fights, it should be noted that he did tire out in his 5-rounder with Francis Ngannou, in which the later rounds he started to gas out from the grueling wrestling exchanges and essentially accepted his bottom position multiple times because he just didn't have the energy to get back up. And when it comes to their chins, although Jones has never officially been knocked down in the UFC, it's worth noting since he's never actually fought at heavyweight, we don't fully know how his chin will last in a division with much heavier hitters. On the other hand, Gane has been knocked down pretty bad during his last fight against Taito Ivasa, but he did manage to recover and turn the fight around. Overall, because of Jon's invaluable experience fighting 5-rounders and the fact that he's never actually been knocked down in the UFC, Jones wins this round of durability. Honestly, both Jones and Gane are exceptional strikers. When you watch either of their fights, you'll see them mix up their entries and their strike selections with plenty of elbows and knees from the clinch. And while Jones is certainly a skilled striker, he wasn't necessarily known for his devastating power on the feet. Matter of fact, of all 21 fights that Jones has had in the UFC, he's only had 5 knockdowns. 5 knockdowns in 21 fights. Not to mention, there are questions of how his speed on the feet will translate with all the added mass he's put on for this heavyweight bout. And it's incredibly important to mention Jones's last 2 fights, which were against Thiago Santos and Dominic Reyes. In the Santos fight, Jones was barely able to slip away with the decision because fortunately for him, Santos had blown out multiple ligaments in his knee, which significantly throttled his mobility. And for the Reyes fight, I honestly believe Reyes actually won 3 rounds as he was more successful on the feet, but Jones luckily was gifted the decision victory. On the other hand, even with all the muscle mass that Gane does carry, he's exceptionally fast on the feet with a great jab, and of course has plenty of experience fighting with the heaviest hitters in the entire UFC, like Francis Ngannou, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and Derek Lewis. Not to mention the fact that Gane is slightly younger at 32, while Jones is 35 years old with plenty of fight years to wear on him. Because of these factors, and since Jones did look a bit less dominant on the feet in his last 2 fights, I think it's likely Gane will actually be faster and maybe more efficient on the feet and wins this round of striking. Now is where things start to get ugly for Gane. If you watch the Francis Ngannou vs Cyril Gane fight, you know exactly just how badly Gane got ragdolled in this fight. Against a fighter in Ngannou who has historically struggled in the wrestling department and has zero wrestling background whatsoever, he was taken down time and time again throughout the fight and controlled with relative ease. And as the fight went on, Gane progressively got more and more tired from the grueling wrestling exchanges, and he often gave up any hope of getting back on his feet and accepted his position on his back. And this is certainly going to be a problem against Jon Jones. In case you didn't know, Jones has a background in Greco-Roman wrestling and has excelled in his MMA career due to his ability to take down his opponents regardless of their wrestling caliber. Matter of fact, he was able to take down the former UFC double champ and US Olympic wrestler Daniel Cormier 3 times in their first fight. Not to mention, he has a smothering top control with vicious elbows and ground and pound, which I think can be a major threat to Gane. And the worst part is, Jones is 100% aware of Gane's weakness in the wrestling department and is planning to exploit it. How do I know? He's currently training with the former UFC double champ and US Olympics wrestling gold medalist Henry Cejudo to perfect his wrestling skills in this upcoming matchup. And in case you didn't know, Henry's been ultra successful as a coach and training partner, as he was actually instrumental in Davison Figueiredo's last fight against Brandon Moreno to regain his flyweight championship belt. Overall, with Gane's major weakness in the wrestling department, along with Jones's prowess and his partnership with Henry Cejudo, Jones wins this round of wrestling by a staggering margin. Again, it doesn't take a genius to say this, but it's true. Jon Jones is levels above Cyril Gane when it comes to Jiu Jitsu. If you take a look at the submissions that Jones has had in the UFC, you'll notice that they're against top tier fighters, including Lyoto Machida, Vitor Belfort, and Rampage Jackson. And the first thing a casual will say to this is, well, Gane has 2 submissions in the UFC, so he must be good at Jiu Jitsu, right? And the fact is, both of these submissions were against fighters that were completely beat already, and Gane simply just finished them off with a submission for style points. Not to mention, they were not even close to the competition that Jones has submitted. One was Dontel Mays, who's now 9-5, and the other was Rafael Pessoa, who's now 10-5 and was actually cut from the UFC back in 2020. Not to mention, Gane got swept by Francis Ngannou, who is no jiu-jitsu ace whatsoever, while off his back, which was honestly quite embarrassing. And Gane has a bad habit of trying hard to throw submissions off of his back rather than fighting to get back on his feet, and when his submissions inevitably fails, he ends up giving massive ground control time up, as he did against Francis Ngannou. So with all of that said, it's clear that Jon Jones wins this round of Jiu-Jitsu as well. So with that, the total score comes out to 48-46 Jon Jones. Overall, although Gane does have an advantage on the feet, it's clear that Jones is well aware of Gane's severe weakness in the grappling department, and he's certainly looking to take advantage of that, which is shown by his partnership with Henry Cejudo leading up to this fight. Also, if you've been following Jones's career as a fighter, you know that he's gotten away with a victory in close and sometimes losing fights via judge's decision, and that is something to consider if this fight does go all 5 rounds. And the UFC is taking a big risk by letting the former champ Francis Ngannou go just to make this fight happen, and it's clear that they want a big draw and personality to come in as the heavyweight champ for the UFC, and it seems to be Jon. Not to mention, Jones has signed an 8-fight contract with the UFC, so it's obvious that Jones does not intend to fight just one fight for a payday, win or lose, and just walk away. So I think it's clear that Jones does intend to become the heavyweight champ and stay at least for a while, and that's why at underdog odds I think there's a lot of value on Jones as the winner, and I certainly will be betting on him for this upcoming matchup. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button to support the channel, and comment down below who you think is going to win this matchup. And be sure to watch these 2 videos right here to see my breakdown for 2 massive MMA matches coming right up and who I'll be betting on for those fights. Anyways, I'll see you on the next one.